Hi, I'm Saleema, and in this video I'll be covering everything you need to know about After Effects in just 10 minutes. When you open up the After Effects, it will look like this. The left section over here is called the Project panel, where you can import all your assets. To import, you can simply drag and drop your assets over here. It's always a good idea to organize your assets by creating folders. By clicking here, you can create a new composition. You can adjust these settings as per the needed delivery specs, but I'm using these settings right now, 1920 into 1080p and 24 frames per second. Make sure to name your compositions properly. Once the composition is created, you can still change these settings from over here. This composition looks blank right now because there is nothing in here yet. You can drag and drop your assets here and the timeline will appear. By pressing Alt and rotating a scroll button on your mouse, you can zoom in and zoom out on the timeline. Timeline works the same way as the layer panel in Photoshop or Illustrator. We can add more assets like the text to our composition. On the timeline panel, if the layer is above another, it will appear on top in the video, and if we'll move the text layer below the footage, it will go hidden under the footage layer. Let's put it back. By pressing a spacebar, After Effects will play our video. Sometimes due to the large number of layers, it might not give the real-time playback, so you can drop your resolution from here and get a smoother playback. Here on right, there are multiple panels. From the character panel, we can change the font, color, size, or any other property of our text. To make our text in the middle of the screen, we can go to the Align panel, and from here we can align it horizontally and vertically. From the Effect and Preset panel, we can apply various effects to our layers. We can also type in the effect that we need over here. Like in this case, we want to apply drop shadow to our text layer. We can simply drag and drop this effect to our text layer. It will open up our Effect Control panel on the left. We can adjust the settings of our effects from here. Once we are happy with our effect settings, we can toggle back to the project panel from here. Let's now add animation to our text. We can try with a simple animation of scaling up and fading on. If we click on this arrow and then the arrow next to transform, we'll get the properties of this layer. In After Effects, everything is pretty much animated through these properties. We can click on the stopwatch next to the property that we want to animate. In this case, we want to animate scale, so we'll click on the stopwatch next to it. Once we click the stopwatch, it will add a keyframe on the timeline. Let's move a little forward on the timeline and increase the scale from here. As you can see, it adds another keyframe on the timeline. These keyframes are telling our text where the scale needs to be at what time. Like on this keyframe, it's telling our text that the scale should be 122. Likewise, in the start, this keyframe is suggesting the scale needs to be 100. After Effects will figure out where it needs to be between these values. So on playing back, we'll get this simple animation. If you want this animation to be a little faster, you can click on this keyframe and drag it closer to the other one. So the animation will be a little faster now. In case you want the animation to be slower, you can click on this keyframe and drag it to a further apart on the timeline. Now this will make the same animation happen in more time, which will slower the animation end result. Let's move this keyframe back on the timeline and see how the animation looks. It looks a little dull and harsh when it comes to stop. So what we can do is we can select both these keyframes and press F9 on our keyboard to easy ease. This will make the animation a little dynamic. This is how easy ease keyframes look like compared to the linear ones. We can shorten our work area by dragging this blue handle over here closer to the other one. So we'll now get a playback of this work area only. Now if you want to adjust the easing on the scaling property, you can select the keyframes and go into the graph editor by clicking here, and you can play with the easing curve to get a desired motion. So this looks good to me. Click on this icon again to get back to the timeline view. Let's now work on fading by adding keyframes to the opacity. Let's keep it 0 in the start and bring it to 100 at 1 second. Select these and apply easy ease on these keyframes as well with the F9. So this is how our animation looks after animating the scaling and fading property. If you want to, in the same way, you can play with other properties like position, rotation to get the desired motion. If we want to see only the properties that have keyframes on it, we can select the layer and then press U on our keyboard and it will hide every other property. To create a shape layer, you can click and hold on this small arrow over here and then you can select and draw any of these shapes. Let's draw an ellipse. Similar to the text, you can animate this shape from its transform properties. Let's animate its position. In start, we want it to be on the left of the screen and then we want it to move towards the right. So this way you can play with the position as well. Let's hide this shape layer for now. By selecting a layer, if you press P, it will open up only the position property. S is for scale, T for opacity, and R is for the rotation. If we want to open up multiple properties, we need to press Shift along with the specific key of that property. Like if we want to open a position along with rotation, we need to press Shift and P. And we can now have both position and rotation. Once you are done animating, you can export your file by going to the file over here and then selecting export and add to the render queue. From here you can select the exporting settings. These settings looks fine to me. And from here you can select the position that you want to save your exported file on your PC. Then you can press the render button over here and you will now get the exported animated file. I tried to sum up the basics of After Effects in this video. In case you have any question or need clarity on anything, you can always let me know in the comments section down below. If you find the content useful and looking forward to learning animation, please subscribe and press the bell icon to get notifications of my future videos.